When they said something magic happens every time you go, I think they were specifically talking about the September 2025 Baltimore Orioles.
You are Locked On Orioles, your daily Baltimore Orioles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Orioles fans. Today is Thursday, September 11th, 2025, and welcome back into the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Connor Newcomb. And coming up on today's episode, we are going to recap somehow another walk-off victory for the Orioles. This one, Dylan Beavers playing the hero in the 10th inning for the O's to beat the Pirates 2-1. I'll get you the 5 things you need to know from that one, including the big moment in the 10th inning, a great start from Tyler Wells, and Jackson Holliday really heating up here in the month of September. Then the Arizona Fall League rosters were announced on Wednesday. I'll break down which prospects from the Orioles system are going to be playing a little extra baseball this fall and why they were chosen. And finally, Nestor Herman, one of the Orioles' top pitching prospects, made his Triple-A debut on Wednesday night. We'll talk a bit about that, but more so about just the pitching depth the Orioles now have in Norfolk, and they'll have at their disposal heading into 2026. But that's all coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast, which is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for 2 to any golf tournament in the USA. Visit 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary, excludes the Masters tournament, ends October 31st, 2025. So we got to start with another Orioles win, and not just another O's win, another Orioles walk-off win. Final score from Game 2 of a 3-game set on Wednesday night at Oriole Park against the Pittsburgh Pirates was the Orioles 2 and the Pirates 1 in 10 innings. The O's walk it off for the second straight night, and that makes it 4 consecutive victories coming via the walk-off for the Orioles. Friday against the Dodgers, Basayo walk-off homer. Saturday against the Dodgers, the huge comeback with the Rivera 2-run single. Tuesday against the Pirates with the 11th inning Basayo bloop. And then it was Wednesday against the Pirates with the Dylan Beavers single. And that makes some Orioles history. For the first time in franchise history, the Orioles have won 4 consecutive games via walk-off. Or to pair that a little differently, because there was a loss in between, they've had 4 consecutive wins come via a walk-off. That is the true record that they set on Wednesday night. Now I'm going to get to the 5 things you need to know from that Orioles 2-1 victory over the Pirates. And the first thing you need to know is that they walked it off again, setting that franchise record. And once again, they went to extra innings against the Pirates, and the O's got a 0 in the top of the 10th inning with the zombie runner, which we'll talk about in a bit. But on Tuesday night, then the Orioles didn't score in the 10th, and it took them until the 11th to win the game. They wanted to get Wednesday night's game over a little bit quicker, and that is what they did. Facing righty Kyle Nicholas, who came out of the Pirates bullpen at the bottom of the 10th, Colton Cowser actually squared to bunt a couple of times, but pulled it back because Nicholas threw 4 straight out of the strike zone. He draws a walk. Then Daniel Johnson comes up, and, there was an argument to be had. It's first and second, nobody out, bottom of the 10th of a 1-1 game. Johnson, who had come in as a defensive replacement, not exactly a great hitter. He's got good speed. He can lay a bunt down. You could say, move the runners over, get the winning run to third base with less than 2 outs. On the flip side, if he does that and it works well, you get second and third one out. The Pirates would intentionally walk Dylan Beavers to load the bases, set up the force at any base, and then would face the struggling Kobe Mayo in a right-on-right matchup. And even if Mayo doesn't ground into a double play and he turns the lineup over to Jackson Holliday, Holliday then comes up with 2 outs, needing a base hit to win the game. So you think about that, and it makes you think maybe you don't bunt with Johnson, but the Orioles do it anyway. And that didn't become a problem because the bunt was so perfect from Daniel Johnson down the third base line. They couldn't throw him out either. Turns into a bunt single to load the bases with nobody out. Then it completely changes the equation. You obviously have to pitch to Dylan Beavers, and Beavers gets it done. Did fall behind 0-2, but worked the count back full, got a 98-mile-per-hour fastball in the middle of the plate from Nicholas, and just grounded it, hard ground ball in the hole, into right field for a walk-off single to give the Orioles a 2-1 victory. Hit that ball 102.9 off the bat, showed some tremendous bat speed. And probably the best part about that hit for Beavers is Like, he's been great. He's running close to a 900 OPS since being called up about a month ago. But the one thing he has struggled with so far is high velocity fastballs. His numbers against fastballs in the kind of, 96, 97, 98 range, that's basically the only kind of pitches that have just been getting him out time and time again. So the fact that not only did Beavers get the walk-off, but it was on a 98 mile per hour fastball from Nicholas is even better to show you, hey, he does have the hands and the bat speed to get to those high velo fastballs, and he put it away. And it capped off what was just a huge day for Dylan Beavers, reaching base 3 times, went 2 for 3 with a single, a double, and a walk. And of course, that RBI in the 10th inning to win it. Now hitting 304 with an 894 OPS since being called up. And oh yeah, that double came against Paul Skeens. The Orioles didn't do a lot of hitting against Paul Skeens, but it came against Skeens, which probably going to win a Cy Young Award. So another big day for Beavers. He's the hero, and it's 4 straight wins via the walk-off, an Orioles franchise record. Second thing you need to know from the Wednesday night win is that Tyler Wells was great in his 2025 Oriole Park debut. Of course, we saw Wells last week in San Diego throw 5 innings of 2-run ball in his season debut, activated off the injured list after he got elbow surgery last June. But he pitches at Oriole Park for the first time since early last year. And he threw the ball really well. I thought his stuff looked great across the board. He got whiffs on all 5 of his pitches. The fastball, solid velo, had that really good, usual just life, especially when he threw it at the top and above the strike zone. And we really saw the best version of Tyler Wells' changeup, especially against the left-handed hitters in the Pirates order, although he did throw it to some righties as well. And it allowed him to pitch deep into the game because, as usual for Wells, he threw strikes. 6 2/3 innings of 1-run ball on 1 hit. 6 strikeouts and 1 walk, a home run allowed on 89 pitches for Wells in his second start back from elbow surgery. Really, the only 2 things that went wrong, one, the 1 hit ended up being a solo home run from the local kid Spencer Horwitz in the top of the 4th inning that put the Pirates up 1-0. 2-2 pitch, Wells went to the cutter down and in, and kind of right into Horwitz's swing path as he launched it onto the flag court. Wells just has better pitches, the 4-seamer and the changeup, to attack lefties with, so you don't love the pitch selection there. I'm sure Jim Palmer was screaming from his couch. He gets very upset because Tyler Wells has given up a lot of home runs against specifically the cutter in his career. And Jim Palmer has made it very clear on the broadcast he is not a fan of Tyler Wells' cutter, so I'm sure if he were on the call Wednesday, he would have had something to say about that one. But otherwise, he was good. And the only other thing was that 1 walk. It was in the 6th inning. It was a leadoff 4-pitch walk to the number 8 hitter, Ji-Hwan Bae, who has 1 hit in the majors this year. I'm sure he'd love that one back. But otherwise, it was the usual good command. He mixed his pitches well. I'm still not convinced that his body can hold up to a full season as a starting pitcher, but he's gonna end this year in the rotation. He's gonna go into spring training as a starter, and then we'll kind of see from there. But what we do know is, like, Wells is going to pitch in different roles, and he will be a weapon and help the Orioles pitching staff in 2026. And if he can do more of this, that's great. I mean, that is just the 5th time in his career he's gone at least 6 2/3 innings in a game. 7 innings is his career high, and it's the first time he's done it since June 15th of 2023. It's really good to see the vintage starter version of Tyler Wells on Wednesday. Third thing you need to know from this one is that the Orioles got kind of lucky that they only had to face Paul Skeens for 5 innings on Wednesday night. Skeens, who is probably going to win the NL Cy Young Award. You can see why when you watch a pitch. You can see why from the stats. It's now a 1.92 ERA after he threw 5 innings of no runs, 2 hit ball with 8 strikeouts and no walks. But it only took him 64 pitches to get through those 5 innings. Besides the Beavers double, the Orioles basically had nothing against Skeens. He was kind of rolling along, and then all of a sudden we get to the bottom of the 6th and he's out of the game, and Carmen Mlodzinski is in there for the Pirates. And you're like, why are they pulling Skeens at 64 pitches? Is he hurt? It turns out it's most likely that the Pittsburgh Pirates, who've been out of it for a while, are just kind of limiting his workload at the end of a long year where they don't have much to play for. I mean, those 5 innings put Skeens at a total of 178 innings pitched this year. He's probably got 3 more starts before the year is over, so he'll still push towards 200 innings. And even between the big leagues and Triple-A last year, he threw only 160 innings last year, so he's well over his kind of career high. And the Pirates are kind of doing it with everyone, right? They kind of did the piggyback thing with Mike Burrows and Braxton Ashcraft in Tuesday night's game. Now, Paul Skeens is a little bit different, But I guess the last thing you want is Paul Skeens, the face and only really part of your franchise, getting injured when it really doesn't matter here in September. So the O's benefited. And the fourth thing you need to know is Skeens coming out was enough for a somewhat struggling Orioles offense to at least scratch across a run. Now, they didn't do it against Modzinski, who threw 2 scoreless innings, but the Pirates went back to Orioles legend Isaac Mattson in the bottom of the 8th inning with a 1-0 Pittsburgh lead. Cowser and Carlson went back-to-back singles to open up the 8th. Then there were 2 outs, but Jackson Holliday came through, poking a 2-1 changeup, little grounder through the left side, into left field for an RBI single to tie the game at 1. And it's been a really good stretch for Jackson Holliday. His last 11 games, Holliday is hitting .366 with 6 extra base hits, 11 walks, just 8 strikeouts, and a barrel rate pushing 10%, which is a really good number. Now, otherwise, the Orioles haven't really done a lot of scoring lately. Despite winning 7 of their 8 games here in September, they're only averaging 3.75 runs per game in that stretch. And in the last 5 games, the Orioles are 4-1, yet they've only scored 13 total runs in those 5 games and have won 4 of them. That's honestly pretty hard to do, but the Orioles also have the best team ERA in baseball in the month of September, and that's how you can win these games when you're not scoring a lot. And the fifth and final thing you need to know from the Orioles 2-1 walk-off win in 10 innings over the Pirates Wednesday is that this bullpen has helped that ERA go down, and the bullpen did a really nice job behind Tyler Wells on Wednesday. Sean Dubin came in for Wells and got the final out of the 7th inning to keep it a 1-0 game. Came back out for the 8th, did struggle a little bit, but Cade Stroud came in and got him out of his 8th inning jam to keep it 1-0. And for Sean Dubin, since coming over off waivers from the Astros, the right-hander with those pitches that move everywhere. I thought Alex Fast, who was on the Orioles StatCast broadcast with Kevin Brown and Brian Roberts on Masson Wednesday, did a great job of kind of breaking down all the different movements of Sean Dubin. 6 innings, or 6 1/3 innings, I should say, over 6 appearances, 3 hits, no runs, 6 Ks, and 2 walks for Dubin as an Oriole. The last player to start his Orioles career with 6 consecutive scoreless appearances was Jacob Webb. And you could see a scenario where Sean Dubin has a Jacob Webb-like run with the Orioles. Remember, Webb came over on waivers to the O's late in the 2023 season, was awesome down the stretch that year, stuck with the team, made the team in 2024, and had a 3.02 ERA in 56 2/3 innings out of the Oriole bullpen the next year. If the O's can get something like that from Dubin and he sticks around for next season, that is a giant win for Mike Elias, picking him up on waivers if he becomes a part of kind of rebuilding this bullpen for next season. Rijo Garcia kept that going. He came in the 9th in his high game, 2-3-4 due up, didn't really matter. Probably should have gotten a 1-2-3 inning, didn't get a call against Tommy Pham, but still did strike out O'Neal Cruz to put up a 0. His changeup looked unhittable again. And then how about Albert Suarez? He was on 4 days rest. Tony Mansolino went to him in the top of the 10th with the zombie runner on second. And his fastball velo was down on the first couple of pitches. It got back up to 94 by the end of the inning, but that was a little concerning. But it didn't impact him. He retired all 3 batters he faced and stranded that runner at third base, put up the huge 0 in the top of the 10th inning, allowing the Orioles a chance to walk it off, which they did on that single from Dylan Beavers. 4 straight wins via the walk-off. That is it's fun to watch. 7-1 in September. The Orioles played spoiler against the Dodgers, spoiler against the Padres. You're not spoiling the Pirates. They have a worse record than the Orioles do, but they got Toronto this weekend. So these teams, the O's are playing down the stretch. They got the Yankees a couple of times. They got the Blue Jays. Watch out. The O's are going to try to mess some things up here at the end of this season. And if they're playing some bad teams, they'll try to pick up some wins there as well, like they did on Wednesday to clinch the series win. But going from the major leagues to the minor leagues, we got the Arizona Fall League rosters were announced on Wednesday. I'll talk about what is the Arizona Fall League and why is it important that some Orioles are going there this fall. That is coming up next. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is brought to you by 5-Hour Energy. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. This grape, ginger, and lime flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost. It's perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Whether you're out on the course or you just need a little extra push to power through your day, 5-Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever leaving the green. Whether it's a wild golf story, just a long day, maybe you got to stay up late and watch some Orioles baseball and you got to hold on to your butts as they try and walk off another game. 5-Hour Energy is there for you. And for golf, it's all about good times with good people and good flavors. The grape ginger lime flavor of 5-Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts your clubhouse go to without leaving the course or chasing down the bev cart. And now you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for two to any golf tournament in the USA. So tee up that trip. Visit 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters Tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. And this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And FanDuel is great because it fits however you want to bet. Player props, same-game parlays, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. Even if the Ravens are making you sad as they blow another lead, you can add a little more energy to your Sunday at FanDuel. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. So after another big Orioles walk-off win on Wednesday, we turn our attention to the minor leagues for the rest of today's show, starting with the Arizona Fall League. The rosters for the 2025 Arizona Fall League were announced on Wednesday. Let's start with Connor. What is this that you're talking about? What even is the Arizona Fall League? Well, this is a kind of supplemental league that is run by Major League Baseball that happens in the fall in Arizona. It's kind of in the name every year. It's played usually in October and November. It's about a 6-week season. And it's for prospects, minor leaguers, to get a little more time in their season. Most teams send anywhere between like 5 to 8-ish prospects. It can vary from year to year. And they all play on the same team. There are 6 teams in the Arizona Fall League. Each of those 6 teams have 5 big league teams that are kind of in cahoots with them, I guess you could say, that have some sort of agreement with that big league team where they send all their prospects to that Arizona Fall League club, and the team supply the coaches as well. Roberto Mercado, who's the Orioles AA manager, I believe either last year or 2 years ago, actually managed one of these teams in the Arizona Fall League. Usually it's kind of a plethora of different reasons why a player might be sent by their team to the Arizona Fall League. A lot of times it's guys who missed a good chunk of the season with injury, but came back healthy at the end of the year, and the team wants them to continue to play in games to like continue to build up. Sometimes it's guys who are injured and there's no more season left. Like all the minor league seasons are over, but their big league team is in the playoffs and they need to play in rehab games to get back at some point in the playoffs. So they'll do that. I think it was Kyle Schwarber when the Cubs won the World Series. He was injured, but he was going to be back for the World Series. So he was playing in the Arizona Fall League to get ready for coming back and rejoining the Cubs. Sometimes it's guys who just didn't play as much, need more time. Sometimes guys who like are Rule 5 eligible. They're on the 40-man bubble. Their teams want a closer look. The Orioles will all play for the Peoria Javelinas in this year's Arizona Fall League. And I believe, they're sending 8 players to the league this year. Just going to kind of run down those guys, who they are and why they're here. First is Enrique Bradfield Jr. You probably know him well. 23-year-old left-handed hitting center fielder, Orioles first-round pick out of Vanderbilt in 2023. Why is he here? Well, he missed a good chunk of this season. Multiple hamstring injuries have limited him to just playing 50 games in Double-A, where he was good. 124 WRC plus, good strikeout, good walk numbers, and he got promoted to Triple-A Norfolk last week, which is a really good sign. He'll get a little more baseball, and then he'll try to find a way to knock his way onto the big league door in 2026. 22-year-old left-handed pitcher Luis De Leon, who the Orioles signed out of the Dominican Republic in the 2021 international signing class, is also heading to the Arizona Fall League. His reason, well, he also missed time with injury. Missed the first 2 months of this season with an injury, so the O's just want him to throw a little bit more. In Aberdeen this year, he was great. 3.58 ERA in 60 innings, good strikeout numbers. Actually then got called up to Double-A 2 weeks ago, so Double-A is still playing, so we'll see De Leon probably pitch at least one more time this year. In his 2 starts in Double-A Chesapeake, how about 11 innings, 1 run, 16 strikeouts to 4 walks? Pretty hard throwing left-hander, deceptive delivery, good breaking stuff. He's a really interesting pitching prospect. To be having success at 22 in Double-A, this is probably won't help the Orioles next year, but maybe in 2027. This is a really intriguing arm to watch in the Orioles system. Ethan Anderson is also headed to the Fall League, 21-year-old switch-hitting catcher who the Orioles drafted in the 2nd round out of Virginia back in 2024. For him, it was just because he got such a slow start to this season in Aberdeen, was struggling early, did finish strong, ended up with a 109 WRC plus in 70 games for the Ironbirds, and has been called up to Double-A. He's played 16 games in Chesapeake, but he has kind of struggled with that transition. I think the Orioles just feel like his first 2 months were kind of like a lost part of his season because he was so lost at the plate. Whatever adjustments he's made have worked. And I think for them, they're like, hey, let's have you play a little bit more baseball and just continue with those adjustments. They might also have him catch a little bit in the Arizona Fall League. He was drafted as a catcher, but he also plays first base and outfield and did a lot of that in the minors. So maybe they want him to catch a little bit more to keep that tool kind of in his back pocket. 22-year-old left-handed pitcher Carson Dorsey is also headed to the AFL, Orioles 7th round pick in 2024. His reasoning is injury. Missed about the first 4 months of this season with injury. Since he's come back in Delmarva, he's been pretty good. 4.04 ERA, 33% strikeout rate to a 9% walk rate in 42 innings for the Shorebirds. He'll almost certainly begin next year in what will then be High A Frederick instead of Aberdeen. But when you miss 4 months and the Orioles like you as a pitching prospect, they're probably going to send you to the AFL to throw some more innings. Another 22-year-old left-handed pitcher is Andy Fabian, who is a 2023 international signing, kind of an older guy in the signing class out of the Dominican Republic. Pitched 17 innings in the FCL this year, then got promoted for 23 innings in Delmarva. Kind of got a late start to his season because he was in the FCL and didn't go to Delmarva till later. So he only, ended up throwing, like less than 40 innings on the year. Now, a 1.19 ERA with 36 strikeouts and 23 innings in Delmarva, that's an arm you want to get a better look at. And so when you only get 40 innings of him, you probably want to get a little closer look in the AFL. Zach Fruit is also headed to the Arizona Fall League. 25-year-old right-handed pitcher. O's took him in the 9th round of the 2023 draft. His reason for going, also injury. Missed about 3 months of this season with a right lat strain, but he is back and healthy. He's been in Double-A for most of the year. It's been a struggle. It's a 7 ERA in about 44 innings since he has returned with high walk rates. It's a high 90s fastball, good breaking stuff, kind of a cross-body deceptive delivery. The Orioles are still kind of using him as a starter right now, but I really do think he's going to be a dominant reliever long-term. He's not Rule 5 eligible until next offseason, so the Orioles have a little time to make that decision, but they'll get a closer look at him in the AFL because of that injury. Tanner Smith is also going, 23-year-old right-handed pitcher who the Orioles, one of the prospects the O's acquired in the Ryan O'Hearn, Ramon Laureano deal with the Padres at the trade deadline. Now, Smith is going, he's not Rule 5 eligible. He wasn't really injured this year. I think it's just because the O's want to get a further look at Tanner Smith. I mean, he threw 6 innings in Delmarva after the trade, then was promoted and has thrown 5 1/3 innings in Aberdeen working as a relief pitcher. I just think they want to know a little better what they have in Tanner Smith heading into 2026, and having him pitch a little bit more in Arizona gives you that. And then the final guy is Tomas Sosa, a 20-year-old left-handed hitting outfielder who was an international signing out of the Dominican Republic in 2022. He's been a little in and out over the past couple of years with injuries. That's one of the reasons why they want to get him down there. But I think it's just they want Sosa to face some bigger competition. Now, in the AFL, generally the hitters are better than the pitchers, but they still want him to face some older competition as well because he began this year in Delmarva. Then he went to Aberdeen, hit well in 47 games. And last week, the Orioles promoted him to Double-A at age 20. Played at 3 different levels this year. That's how good he's been. And hit 2 home runs in Double-A Chesapeake in his first week. I think for them, it's just like, hey, let's see how you do against some more advanced competition. He'll obviously be starting back in Double-A Chesapeake next year. But if he keeps moving at this pace, like we're in 2027 being like, is Tomas Sosa part of the Orioles lineup? It's special power from the left side. It's still things to refine for Sosa, but he's a pretty interesting international prospect as well. And as you can tell from a lot of these guys I mentioned, De Leon, Fabian, Tomas Sosa, the Orioles international class is looking better and better as they move up the ranks. A lot of these games are streamed I believe the All-Star game and the championship games are on MLB Network for the Arizona Fall League, so a good chance you'll get to see a little more of the Orioles prospects, even as the O's season and the minor league seasons are over once we get into October. I want to finish things up with a little bit of minor league talk as well. The Norfolk Tides rotation looks very, very different than it did early in the year, but in a good way. So I want to talk about what that good change is to finish off the show coming up next. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is also brought to you by Nutrafol. You've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, sure, like that one actually works. Well, there are so many products out there, it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. That's why you should give Nutrafol a closer look. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. And it's not just hype. This is a supplement clinically tested that targets the root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. And the best part about Nutrafol is that it's a simple add to your day. 4 pills with a meal, no prescription needed. It's that easy. So see thicker, stronger hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. And for a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Locked On MLB listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB. So to finish off today's Thursday episode, I wanted to talk a little bit more minor leagues because we saw Nestor Herman make his Triple-A Norfolk Tides debut, got the start on Wednesday night in the Tides game. Herman, a 23-year-old right-handed pitcher who was the 11th round pick by the Orioles in 2023 out of Seattle University. There was like no scouting done from anyone in the media space. Nobody really knew who he was. Well, he's now ascended to AAA 2 years later, and by FanGraphs is ranked the #8 overall prospect in the Orioles system. This was an incredible find by the scouting staff in that Orioles front office, was called up to AAA this week and made his debut on Wednesday night. Now, he wasn't great on Wednesday. He pitched only 3 innings, gave up like 5 runs. His command was a little bit erratic, but he did have some good whiff stuff, especially on his slider. And it's been a great year. He began the year with Aberdeen, had 6 great starts, was called up to AA. And in AA, he was tremendous. 91 innings in Chesapeake, 3.76 ERA, good strikeout and walk rates. And then comes up to AAA where he'll get a chance to make, 2-3 AAA starts before the season is over. Did give up a couple of home runs in that debut on Wednesday, but he flashed 5 pitches. It's a 4-seamer that kind of sat 93 up to 95. His slider got a ton of whiffs. Then he tossed in a changeup, a curveball, and a cutter to go with it. His command is good. It was a little off on Wednesday, but he can certainly miss some bats. And I wanted to bring him up because the Tides rotation just looks very different than it did early in the year. And the Orioles, as we know, mostly because of injuries and somewhat because of bad performance, they were desperate for starting pitching this year, especially early in the season when the things went south very, very quickly. When you had a bad Charlie Morton, you had an injured, Kyle Bradish and Tyler Wells, obviously, an injured Grayson Rodriguez. You had a bad Dean Kramer early in the year. You went to Kyle Gibson. He was just as bad. It was a nightmare back then. And they really didn't have a lot of guys in AAA to go to that were good starting depth because a lot of those guys were still in AA and just weren't ready yet. Well, hopefully this isn't the case, but if the Orioles really need any more good depth in 2026 in terms of starting pitching, that depth is now going to be there in AAA and getting pretty close to ready for the major leagues. Because here is the current Tides rotation. 27-year-old right-hander Carson Ragsdale, who the Orioles got on a waiver claim from the Giants earlier this year, but he was a true prospect in the Giants system at the time of the claim, and he's been good. 5 starts with the Tides, has a 3.47 ERA, good fastball splitter combo. They've got Nestor Herman, who I've already talked about. They've got Trey Gibson, the 23-year-old righty, who's the #2 prospect currently in the Orioles system. According to FanGraphs, he was an undrafted free agent signing in 2023. He does have a 9.64 ERA and 5 starts in AAA, but the FIP is much lower. It's good strikeout to walk numbers. And oh yeah, he had a 1.55 ERA in AA, which is why he got called up. It's tremendous stuff. He's going to be good. They've got Cameron Weston in there, 25-year-old righty, 18th ranked prospect in the Orioles system. He was an 8th round pick out of Michigan in 2022. He's been in AAA all year, just never really looked good enough to be called up. But it's a 4.8 ERA and about 126 innings on the season. Walk rate's a little high, strikeout rate's a little low, but it is a 6-pitch wide mix with a good changeup, and he doesn't give up hard contact. He's kind of an interesting guy who might be added to the 40-man roster this offseason. We'll see. And then it's Levi Wells, 23-year-old righty who just got called up to Triple-A as well. Number 27 ranked prospect in the Orioles system via FanGraphs. 4th-round pick in 2023. Has had some injuries, but stuff is great. Had a 3.12 ERA and 75 innings in Double-A. Numbers don't look good in his first 3 Triple-A starts, but it's a high velo fastball, low barrel rates, and it's good stuff. And these are 5 guys who, if any of them started a game for the 2026 Orioles, not beginning the year in the rotation, but because the O's needed to call up an arm, I'd be okay with that. And that's without even counting the fact that, I mean, in a perfect world, Brandon Young and Cade Povich are both also in Triple-A to begin next season because the Orioles have brought in enough starting pitching where both of them are pushed down to depth. So if you have Young and Povich as your main depth, and then you have these 5 guys behind them, all in Triple-A and all getting close to ready to go, it's night and day the spot you're in starting pitching depth in 2026 versus what it was, especially early this year in 2025. So I just wanted to note that because it's really the first time in a while that the Orioles have had this kind of starting pitching depth in Triple-A and presumably at some point next season ready to go if they need it. And there's a good chance the Orioles don't need as much starting pitching next year as they did this year. This year's just been crazy with the injuries, but pitchers get injured and the Orioles are going to be much more equipped to handle that next year because the pitching development has just improved so much. It's showing off all of these arms that are going up the system, and all these guys in Norfolk right now to end the year are kind of showing off that Orioles pitching development. It's not just hitters they can develop, it's pitchers too. And it's getting more and more exciting in this system to have some more arms that can hopefully help the Orioles next year and beyond if they need it. That'll do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Orioles go for the sweep here today. A little matinee baseball, 1:05 p.m. at Oriole Park on Masson. It'll be Cade Povich going for the Orioles. 27-year-old right-hander Johan Oviedo will go for the Pirates. He threw 5 scoreless innings against the Brewers in his last time out. It'll be just his 6th start of the season for Oviedo coming back from injury. Then I will be back on Friday, one final pod on the week. I'll be recapping the final game between the O's and the Pirates. I'll get you ready for Orioles Blue Jays in Toronto this weekend, and we'll get a few more injury updates. It looks like Tyler O'Neill might be joining the Orioles soon. We'll talk about that and much more on tomorrow's episode. But until then, I'm Connor Newcomb, and this has been the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.